Thanks for joining me for another episode, and I, the grumpy man, agrees with BLM. Those of you who've been following my channel will know I'm a big critic. I'm not a fan of Black Lives Matter because I never understood how an organisation that's supposed to help black lives actually destroyed a lot of black lives, looted black businesses, destroyed homes and property left, right and centre. And so how does one justify something like that? So I was, like I said, huge critic of BLM, never hated them. But talk about bizarro world, because I finally actually agree with something they said. Now, for all the hoo-ha that's happening with Kamala Harris at the moment, her nomination for the president race against Trump, they've actually brought out a statement because they don't really agree with the democratic process that isn't happening. So let's have a look at X, because they released a statement today. Now, what they're saying is the timeline of events. So what had happened was on Sunday, Joe Biden drops out. Kamala Harris announces campaign with Biden endorsement. Kamala Harris says she's going to work hard to earn a nomination. Kamala Harris makes calls to party delegates. Monday, Kamala Harris continues making calls to party delegates. Kamala Harris makes 2 public speeches, and AP announces Kamala Harris. The AP is the Associated Press. AP announces Kamala Harris has secured enough delegates to be the Democratic nominee. This was Monday night, which is basically tonight, this morning rather, Australian time. And Kamala Harris releases this statement noting she has worked hard to go out and earn this nomination, as promised. Now, here's the problem with all that. Black lives are unhappy with the way this all happened, because the basic Joe Blow hasn't had a chance to actually vote during the primary process. They never voted for the person that they want. So we continue, and a 24-hour process of talking to House bosses is not democratic, nor is it a process Democrats should be proud of. We do not live in a dictatorship. Delegates are not oligarchs. Installing Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee and an unknown vice president without any public voting process will make the modern Democratic Party a party of hypocrites. Absolutely, because they've been jumping up and down how the Republicans are destroying democracy. Ugh. What can you do? Hypocrites. Of course, they're always hypocrites. They've always been hypocrites, and they will continue being hypocrites. We call on the DNC. BLM continues to create a process that allows for public participation in the nomination process, not just a nomination by party delegates. And boy, has there been a lot of backroom dealings, because within, 48 hours? Probably not even that time, they raised over $100 million now. Where did that money come from? It just appeared. And they've still got the funds for the Biden campaign, and they're trying to get the funds from that into Kamala's campaign. I think Trump just tried to stop that somehow. He sent his in-laws, but we'll see how that develops as I find out a bit more news about that. But there was no democracy in this whole thing, because normally we go through the whole primaries system. Now, this particular year, 2020, there was like 138. Correct me if I'm wrong, just leave a comment in the comment section. But there was quite a few people that ran, including Kamala, ran for the position in the primaries. But sadly, even though she raised the most money out of any of those delegates in 2020, she only received 844 votes, and she ended up dropping out. She was just total rubbish. And then, because nobody wanted her, so nobody voted for her. And then all of a sudden, she becomes a DEI hire by Biden. She becomes vice president of the USA, because Biden said he wanted to hire a black woman, which he did. And she's just been shocking, absolutely shocking. She was supposed to be the border czar and solve the border crisis. And to this day, as far as I'm aware, she's never visited the border because she's just terrible. Anyway, so let's move on. Now, this is a gentleman by the name of Michael Schellenberger, and he's got some very interesting comments to say about the whole process with Kamala. So let's have a listen to this.
Democrats who have supported Harris her whole career appear to think that her being half black and a woman made her a unique and gifted politician. Yet Harris is the opposite of unique. She rose to the top by conforming, not standing out. Throughout her political career, Harris hewed to what Democratic interest groups and the political consultants who served them demanded from her. She inherited the political machine created by her former boyfriend, Willie Brown. Harris has largely avoided facing substantial competition, and the one time she did, in 2020, voters resoundingly rejected her. Despite this rejection, Harris was handed a position as vice president in what was widely perceived as a strategic move by Biden to put a black woman on the ticket. Holding Harris to low standards reflected Democrats' soft bigotry and patronizing attitude towards minorities. Because the party has essentially coddled Harris, she has not been forced to grow as a leader in ways she might otherwise have. That Harris is now consolidating support as Democrats' best hope of defeating Trump points to a major legitimacy crisis for the party, as well as for the media and the federal bureaucracies that are heavily aligned with it. It was only possible for such an unpopular candidate to gain the party's support because since 2016, Democrats and the mainstream media have gone to extreme lengths to subvert democracy in order to target Trump. Those lengths have included the Russia collusion disinformation campaign, mass censorship of political speech, attempts to criminalize political opposition, and an effort to prevent Trump from running for office again. All these activities have eroded the legitimacy of the state, the media, and the party. Their legitimacy depends on public confidence. This confidence diminishes when these institutions are so transparently undermining civil rights, failing to meet citizens' needs, and operating without integrity. The war on democracy led by Democrats, the press, and the deep state has in this way ultimately helped Trump gain support. At the same time, it's left Democrats without good options to defeat him. By favoring woke racialist politics over a substantive political platform, and by selecting nominees in an anti-democratic process for 3 presidential elections in a row, Democrats have been left with an extremely weak candidate.
He's so on the money on that one. It's interesting how when they started out, it was all Biden. He was going to not drop out. Even Biden said that himself numerous times, and everybody supported him. He was sharp as a tack. They were saying Scarborough from Joe Scarborough from the Morning Joe show. He said he's the best Biden he's ever been. What was it? 2.5 months later, he's dropped out because he just had a devastating debate. So they all end up turning on him, and now Kamala and George Clooney just came out and endorsed him. But the funny thing is, Barack Obama hasn't endorsed her at all. So that's an interesting turn of events. I wonder what's going to happen on that front. But yeah, all the ducks have lined up again. The Democrats are right behind Kamala. Let's have a look at what. Who is it? Chuck Schumer, I think it is. What he had to say.
So now that the process is played out, from the grassroots bottom up, we are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have to.
That just sums it all up, doesn't it? I wonder how much negotiation that was happening in the background there, in the dark offices, trying to get Kamala in there. But the thing is, again, the whole democratic process was pretty much thrown out of the window because they effectively had no primaries. But, in all honesty, nor did Trump. He didn't really have that many people against him other than Nikki Haley, 5 people, DeSantis, and they were just train wrecks. But at least Trump had, 5 or 6 people running against him, and Biden basically had no one. He had no one, and they just pushed him right through, and here we are. Biden gets thrown out, and I'm still really suspicious of what's happened behind the scenes with Biden. It just happened too quickly, considering 3 days before he said he wouldn't be running again, he was still saying he's going to stay in as the nominee. He was going to be the nomination to run for president again. So that all fell apart very, very quickly. All right, so let's have a look at some comedy. And I'm not a big fan of Kamala because of the things she's done, including, what was it, in the early 2000s, there was a particular guy who was put in jail for murder. Turns out he didn't do it, but Kamala went out of her way to keep him in jail. And it took the courts to actually dismiss that. And the guy who ended up in jail just said Kamala just ruined his life. And there's been a lot of other instances where, as a district attorney, she was extending sentences on a lot of black people and using them as labour. And on top of that, she even put a whole bunch of people away for marijuana smoking. And on a podcast one day, they asked her, "Do you smoke marijuana?" She laughed and said yes. Oh, she's just a nasty piece of work. What I've pretty much become accustomed to with Democrats. Now, this is a very funny young lady, and this really sums up everything about Kamala. Have a listen to this girl.
The significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is a great significance to the passage of time. Wakanda forever. Brought to you by Kamala Harris. I'm one heartbeat away from being your president. Which way to the border? This way? I'll go that way. Do they have brackets down there? Do they have brackets at the border to hold everybody in place? We should get them some brackets.
Oh, geez, she's just a meme machine. Kamala, she can provide a lot of content. Well, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and share it if you can. And that's pretty much for me for this video. I'll catch you in the next one.